on. We're live. We're going. Okay, this workshop is called Ichinen Senzen, Achieving Great Potential. Secret is you're going to achieve great potential anyway, because you're like all enlightened. You just don't know it. In a sense, that's true. Okay, the illustration on the first part of your handout, Ichinen Senzen is the Japanese expression, and it means something similar to, well, it describes 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, is what it describes. And this is the best visualization I could find regarding that, where you have 10 realms of existence, starting with the Buddhahood, Bodhisattva, realization, learning, rapture, tranquility, anger, animality, hunger, and hell. The lower six are usually seen on what's called the Baba Chakra, which is the wheel of life. You see it in, you should see it at every Buddhist center in the world. And it's the one with the wheel with the 6 realms and the monster biting into it, taking a chunk out of it. The top 4, starting with learning, realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood, are ones that were added later by Zhi Yi, the Chinese master. And they represent learning is a person who's on the path but has just entered it. It's the path of the disciple, the hearer, the monastic, that or layperson even, that just entered the path and is learning about Buddhism or Dharma. Realization has to do with the self-made Buddha. Originally, that's what it meant. Today, we take it to mean, okay, now you're getting realizations. You're a little more advanced in your practice. Your mind is being conditioned to see greater things. Then there's the Bodhisattva, who's living out their lives with the desire to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, including themselves. And there's a lot of mythology about the Bodhisattva, which is symbolic and wonderful and often misleading, because it sounds like they themselves don't really want to become enlightened. They want everybody else to become enlightened. To have that kind of desire would be actually defeating the purpose of the practice. The idea is to become enlightened with everyone else. Once we understand exactly who everybody else is, and we'll get to that in this discussion, I hope, it's really not that far-fetched of an idea. It just sounds far-fetched on this level of experience that we call the mundane, the conventional. And then there's Buddhahood, when we're awakened, fully aware. And one of the things here in the West that we have problems with is language. Buddhism is probably the victim of more mistranslation than any other practice or faith in the world. Buddha does not mean the enlightened one. It can mean something similar to that, but it does not necessarily mean that particular term, enlightened. That is a Western term that we have imposed upon Buddhism. And the Buddha uses it but once, where he says, a wanderer sees him in the woods and asks him, wow, you're radiant. Are you a god? And he says, no. And the guy wants to know who he is, why he looks so cool. Well, he just got out. He just realized Buddhahood himself, and he says, answers with the word Buddho, meaning I am awake or I understand. So Buddha actually means one who is awake, no longer dreaming his way through life, fantasizing about it. It means he understands how his mind works. And if his mind works that way, everybody else's probably works that way too. So this is Buddhahood. It's not some far out mystical experience. It's very practical. Every once in a while, almost everybody has an experience of being fully present and aware. Just as everybody, every once in a while, some more than others, have the experience of existing in hell. Right? I won't mention McDonald's name. Or the Rowners, or the Crews, or the
Well, we know who you're talking about.
You know I'm talking about John McCain. And, but I won't mention his name, Mr. Trump. Now, within each one of those realms, the other 10 realms, or the 10 realms, exist within each one of the 10 realms. So if I'm experiencing, say, a really, really good mood, and I find myself in the heaven realm, the realm of rapture, and I'm really enjoying myself, all 10 realms have the possibility of existing within that one realm, that one experience. When we say realm, we're talking about experience, human experience. So I can be in a really, really good mood, having a really, really fantastic day. Like today, I'm in a really, really good mood. But in the back of my mind, there's this hellish being back there saying, wait until the shoe drops. If you're in a good mood, something's going to go wrong and spoil it. Okay, so that realm automatically exists in the realm that I'm experiencing. So my experience at any given time contains all other experiences as well, at least the possibility of them. Then we go over here to this little zigzaggy thing here. I'll show you. See, that's what I'm using. You're never going to see it on the video. There are 10 what we call suchnesses. Suchnesses. Talk about contrived language. Their characteristics. Their characteristics are the thing which I am experiencing has an appearance. It has a nature that I recognize. It has the quality of being an entity. Even the bell is an entity. We're using that word very, very broadly. It has a power. It has a power to influence us. Or we give it a power to influence us. It has influence itself. We see an inherent cause. We also see an external cause. There is a latent effect. Any experience you have will come back, will have a causation to create a condition in your life later on. But there's also an immediate cause, or a manifest effect, which is an immediate effect. Did I say latent cause? I meant latent effect, excuse me. There is consistency in the experience, and there is a lifespan to the experience. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, depending on what our mind is perceiving and taking as being important and predominant, will determine which one of these characteristics adds to the experience most predominantly. But even no matter what, which one of these characteristics we recognize, the others are there too. This is how we get 3,000. If you multiply 10 worlds times, or 10 realms, or 10 experiences, times 10 experiential realms, times 10 characteristics, you get 1,000. Right? Mm-hmm. 10 times 10 times 10. But they exist as far as the self is concerned, the experience of the other is concerned, and the environment in which it is experienced. 3 times 1,000 is still 3,000. At least on my planet, it comes out to 3,000. So you have a possibility of at least 3,000 experiences with particular qualities. 3,000 realms. And they all arise every moment that we're alive to give us an infinite number of experiential possibilities at any time. This is why the word great is in there. Not because they're fantastically wonderful, but because there is a great number of them. Now it's our job as human beings to live a happier, calmer, and freer life. That means we have to program and condition ourselves to be able to choose one of the best of these possibilities. And there's still an infinite number of those. Because just sitting here, there are people, multiple people. That means there are multiple others that participate in this. We're projecting onto them. Just right now, you're projecting onto me. You are yourself. You have 3,000 realms. You're projecting onto me 3,000 realms, and you're projecting on the environment 3,000 realms. But there are other entities besides you and me and the room. There are entities such as the candle, the statue, the bell, the paper, the computer, the camera, the door, the hall. All these pieces of environment, or others, also exist in an environment. Now let's multiply 3,000 by all of those factors involved. Now we have an infinite number of possibilities of experience right here at this moment. Yes, mind-boggling, isn't it? Well, Qi, the founder of Tendai, is the one that put this idea together. It's found in his book, Great Concentration and Insight, which he called Shiquan, which in Japan became Shikan, and if you're into Zen, it's called Shikantaza, and it means Shamatha Vipassana, relaxation, insight. The theory that he developed this on is called Ninifuni, but two but not two. Two phenomena, but not two in essence. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. It's what you're paying me for. It's why you come here, is to learn. Two in phenomena, one, but not two in essence. Because any experience I am having by myself. I am not experiencing you out there. I am experiencing you in here. So this is where the experience is taking place. That is non-duality. I cannot separate the experiencer from the thing that is being experienced. the event and the person witnessing the event are one, because neither one of them exists. Not in fact. It goes back to the idea that the things we experience in our experiential reality, I love that word experiential, it's so easy to say, it just rolls right off the tongue, do not exist the way we think they do. We talked about this last time, didn't we? At the same time, they do not exist for us outside of our thoughts. They don't exist the way we think they do, but they don't exist outside of the way we think of them, as far as our experience is concerned. That's a paradox. And both statements are true at the same time. And this is how we create our experience. This is the middle way. Zhiyi's middle way, as a matter of fact. It means that because I am thinking about a circumstance or a situation, that's why I'm experiencing that in that particular way. If I think about it differently, it becomes experienced differently. That's why when you were talking about the bully at work, how do you deal with him? You experience him in a different way. Instead of being an overbearing bully, you think of him as a poor suffering bastard, and that makes you feel better. Maybe even a little more superior. It's good for your self-esteem. But at the same time, the reason he exists the way he does for you is because you're creating him to exist that way. And in creating him to exist that way, that puts you way down on the animal level, verging on a hell realm. Because you're going to get angry. And anger is part of the hell realm. So this concept becomes very, very important in meditation, especially introspection. So at any given time, a powerful emotion arises. We can just think, okay, where am I now? And you can pretty well pivot where you are. And if you know where you are, you can probably figure out a way of getting out of that. Because that's something we don't want to be. Now, we can do strange things like bring up terms like righteous anger, righteous indignation. These are Old Testament terms. I love them. Righteous anger, that's what, like righteous syphilis. Righteous indignation, righteous cirrhosis. Anger and indignation are diseases. Look at the word disease. Dis-ease. Being ill at ease. I'm not living comfortably. That means I'm diseased. If I'm angry, I'm really diseased. And if I hold on to that anger, the Buddha tells me that's like I'm taking poison and expecting you to die. And that doesn't make sense either. It's like the guy that puts the gun to his head, said, "Bye-bye, cruel world, you'll miss me when I'm gone." And he makes page 17 of the Chicago Tribune. And nobody reads about his death. Because nobody cares. We're all the center of our own world, and that's what we care about. We really don't care about the other person, even when we're showing sympathy to another person. It's not about them, it's about us. We feel obligated, therefore we're motivated to feel sympathy. After all, that's what people are supposed to do, show sympathy. Compassion works a little bit differently. Compassion involves wisdom. And when we show compassion, karuna, we're not involved. They're not the person that's giving assistance. There is not a person receiving assistance. There is just the act of compassion. If we're thinking about, if we're having expectations and thinking that the person should receive what I'm offering them in a certain way and behave in a certain way with it, then that's not compassion anymore. That's negotiation. It's like giving a bum on the street $1 and expecting him not to spend it in the way he wanted to spend it, but spend it in the way you wanted him to spend it. That's not compassion. I give you advice, you say, hey, that's great advice, and you ignore it. And I get upset. Why? Because I'm not compassionate. I'm giving you advice because it makes me feel good to give advice. But if I give you advice and then forget about it, that's actually more compassionate because now I'm not invested in it. What puts us in any one of these realms at any given time is our investment when we create a me that is making an investment in you. Now, I want you all to become enlightened. I want you all to have wonderful meditation experiences. And when you become enlightened, come back, let me know how it is. When you have a wonderful meditation experience, give me a call. Let me know how it went, what your secret is. But I don't expect you to become enlightened. I don't expect you to have great meditation experiences every day. I don't expect me to become enlightened. I don't expect me to have a great meditation experience every time I put my butt on this cushion, because it ain't gonna happen. And the minute I start expecting it, it's further away. It's like the idea of original enlightenment or the luminous mind. How far away is the luminous mind? The awakened mind. Is it very far? It's never very far. It's only one thought away. As soon as you have a thought, it's gone. Once you stop having a thought, it comes back. Because that only means that we're aware. If we're aware, we see, we understand, and this problem of 3,000 realms doesn't show up again as a problem. It still exists, we're still aware of it, but it's not a problem. But if I'm sitting in, the hunger realm, and I'm craving desperately, and I'm angry about my craving, and that craving is consistent and lasts, that puts me in a particular kind of a realm, a particular kind of a mental experience that is very, very painful. And we're back to dukkha and existential suffering. Page 2. Ji said about the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. Now one mind comprises 10 Dharma realms, but each Dharma realm also comprises 10 Dharma realms. Okay, Dharma realm, let's call that phenomena. One realm comprises 30 kinds of realms, hence 100 Dharma realms comprise 3,000 realms. Okay, we just went over that. These 3,000 are contained in a fleeting moment of thought. Where there is no mind, that is the end of the matter. But if mind comes into being for the slightest degree whatsoever, it immediately contains 3,000. The moment we have a thought, a cognition, where there is a me having a thought about that, I'm thising and thating, the 3,000 realms arise. When I'm not having a thought, guess what? I'm a Buddha. I have suddenly become enlightened. That original enlightenment surfaces, and life's great. Not great in a ha-ha, kind of a way, but great in a content sort of a way, where there is calm and the possibility of great joy in that calmness. Then I can wake up in the morning with a smile on my face and tell the world that I'm beautiful. I should never have seen that Carole King special, because now I can't get that out of my mind. But that's the way it works. When the thought arises, these 3,000 realms arise at the same moment. And it's from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Every time you shift your eyes, you see something new. And suddenly you're in a relationship with it, and 3,000 thought realms will come up. I'm aware of the candle, 3,000 thought realms. Oh, there's the Buddha, 3,000 thought realms. There's a chair, 3,000 thought realms. There's Hans. Oh boy. 10,000 thought realms. He's a big guy.
Some of those realms are not necessarily bad. If you got Buddhahood and
Oh, no.
sometimes if you're having an experience, but it's pure joy and it's compassionate, then it's not such a bad realm.
No, some of these realms are very good.
Yeah.
But they're only temporary.
Okay.
And now we're back to dukkha. Because they're only temporary. They feel good at the moment. We are very gratified by them, but they do not bring happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Even being a Buddha in a Buddha realm, while I'm in this skin bag, is not going to bring me lasting happiness. It's going to bring me gratification. That gratification might last a long time, but it's not going to last forever. It's like in my high school yearbook, some girl that I was hitting on for 4 years wrote in there, "Oh, you're such a cutie. I hope you never change." Is she lying to me or lying to herself? I never saw her again after that day. As long as we're alive, there's going to be change. And how we relate to that change will also determine what realm we're in and what influencing realms there are. And you got this wonderful chart. This chart, or this illustration, is easier to follow than the Abhidhamma grid with the mind qualities and different mind states and all that. Because it gives you a three-dimensional visual of where you are. You know that this is the good point here, but I'm way back here somewhere in the middle. And it's like this. You have a wonderful dinner. There it is. You're in the heaven realm because you've got, I don't know what you, for me, a wonderful dinner is a deep fried, breaded, smoked pork chop, wrapped in bacon, served on a ham platter, and mashed potatoes and gravy. That is all heaven to me. But then I look at my plate, and some SOB put a Brussels sprout there. In that plate, which is heaven, also exists hell. It's called a Brussels sprout. So in that one experience, heaven and hell coexist on the same plate. And it's destroying the taste of the ham platter. And now when I eat the smoked pork chop with the bacon on it, every time I look down, I see the Brussels sprouts, and I'm anticipating the taste of the Brussels sprout. And worse, next to the Brussels sprout, there's a beet. So that's a hell realm. And it's a hell realm with continuity, because I'm not going to eat it because I keep thinking about it and I can't enjoy the heaven realm of the ham and pork chop and bacon. Now that's a silly example, but it's the same example of going to work. Oh my God, it's Monday morning. And I know I got to see that jerk again. As soon as I come in, he's going to be there. Then I got to be here for 8 hours. I got a long drive back home. I'm going to be tired. I know my spouse or significant other is mad at me for not putting up the toilet stool. You know, and so forth and so on. It goes on. And this all happens in one moment. It's like an emotion. You know what emotion is? Ever since the German and English romantics, emotion has been set up on a pedestal like it's some sort of separate God realm of importance. Emotions have deep, deep significance. In Buddhist terms, an emotion is a complex set of thoughts based upon a sensation of pleasantness or unpleasantness. This is pleasant. Now I'm going to start thinking about it, and the more I think about it, the more pleasant it becomes, the more emotionally invested I become, then a little tear comes out of my eye. And I call that love. By the way, the object that I was talking about is a piece of pizza. I'm relating to food today. Love is one of those words that have no meaning. It's all context. I love my cats, but I also occasionally love pizza. It either means a very deep emotional investment, or I kind of sort of like something sometimes. It can mean any of those. So when my wife tells me she loves me on those rare occasions when she does, what does that really mean? She likes truffles too. Okay, so what does the Buddha have to say about all this? The Blessed One said, what is the all? In other words, what is all this stuff we're experiencing around us? The all, simply the eye and forms, ear and sounds, nose and aromas, tongue and flavors, body and tactile sensations, intellect and ideas. This, monks, is called the all. Anyone who would say, repudiating this all, I will describe another, if questioned on what exactly that might be the grounds for his statement, would be unable to explain further and would be put to grief. Why? Because it lies beyond his range. You cannot, that's all there is. Consciousness of the six senses. That's all we exist in. Go ahead and posit another reality outside that. And then try to prove its existence. You can't do it. Because every time we try to prove that there is a different kind of reality, a different explanation for our experiential reality than that, we come back to this experiential reality. Well, you're supposing that. Well, that's a concept. That's a mental action. That's intellect and ideas. I saw this happen. Eyes and sight being interpreted by mind. You're back to seeing this. This is the explanation for reality as we experience it. Notice the things that are in here. Things that we have to have ideation about. If I'm just experiencing this thing here, and I'm going to call this bell, and not thinking about it, I'm simply aware of it. The all is not fragmented as long as I'm not thinking. As soon as a thought arises, the all becomes fragmented and separated into these six things, or these six sets. That's the luminous mind, the Hongaku experience, the enlightenment itself is experiencing that non-duality, where there is no experiencer, there is nothing experienced, there is just experience itself. And I am aware of that experience, or there is an awareness of that experience, but there is no I doing it. Because in point of fact, I only exist because of the way I think of myself. And I always think of myself in relationship to something. You cannot think of yourself without having a relationship to something else. Can't be done. The Blessed One said, "And what is the origination of the world? Dependent on the I and forms, there arises I consciousness. The meeting of the three is contact. From contact is a requisite condition, comes feeling. From feeling as a requisite condition comes craving. From craving as a requisite condition comes clinging, sustenance. From clinging sustenance as a requisite condition comes becoming. From becoming as a requisite condition comes birth. From birth as a requisite condition, then aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair come into play. This is the origination of the world." This is the same description he gives to dependent origination, which is a mental process. We create the world. This is his statement saying, we create the world. We don't need a first cause out in space somewhere creating worlds. We do a very good job of it ourselves. As a matter of fact, we're the only people, the only thing creating our world. Nobody's creating it for us. The experiential realm. We don't have to posit supernatural action upon us. Matter of fact, it's helpful not to. Because if a being had created this world and everything in it, then we would have no free will, no opportunity for free will. Because we're just part of the machine. But we're not part of the machine. We create our experiential world. If that were not so, how come there are 7 billion people on the planet and 7 billion realities? Reality, wow, what a concept, as Mui used to say. Because reality is simply an opinion from my point of view. It's utter nonsense when it's your point of view. That's my reality. My reality is always right. It has to be right, or else I cannot self-validate. Well, if there's no me in the way, then I don't need self-validation. I don't have to say I'm always right. I don't have to defend that position that I'm right or wrong. I don't have to seek validation for my opinions, because I'm not hung up on me. I'm hung up on the experience itself. That's really where my mind is at. And this gives me a blueprint of how that works. Now, this is going to happen in the blink of an eye, or even faster than that, because this happens moment to moment to moment too. This is what's creating our realms that we're experiencing. This process. Where is a safe place to stop in this process? We can't avoid the contact. Dependent on I and forms, there arises I consciousness. Meeting of the three is contact. And if we stop there, then we're fine. Because that's just awareness. But we go on further, there comes feeling. We sense pleasantness and unpleasantness. We just can't leave something alone as it is. We have to react to it. This is where karma comes in. I hope that's the next page. Nope, that's the last page. Okay, so let's go to page 3. We'll talk about karma in a minute. What time is it? Oh, cool. This circle here with ignorance, attachment, and aversion. This is a self-perpetuating process, and in the Baba Chakra, you see it in the center of it as a pig biting the tail of a snake, who's biting the tail of a bird, who is biting the tail of a pig. going around in circles. Ignorance leads to attachment, and if you're attached to something, you're going to be averse to something else. The only reason we're attaching to one thing is because we don't want something else to occur. I attach to Neapolitan ice cream because that makes me feel happy. So I'm attaching to the happiness which is represented by the Neapolitan ice cream because I'm averse to the unhappiness that I would experience if I don't have Neapolitan ice cream. It's that simple. If I'm pulling on something, that means I'm pushing away something else. So we have this constant push-pull. Why are we attaching to things? Because we're ignorant about their true quality, their true nature. They're changing. We cling to things because we identify with them, and they're not us. We don't own them. And this goes for people, places, and things. Rampant patriotism is an example of this. I'm an American. Yup, 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 yup. I'm the greatest country in the world. Americans are. Well, I'm sure that's true, unless you happen to be happy to be a Russian. That America's the pit. If you're a Chinese nationalist, they're both bad. China's the greatest. If you're Israeli, well, we know about that. This land is mine. It's all very relative. When I attach to something and identify with it, everybody else is attaching to things and identifying with those as well. That means now I have to defend my opinion why this is a good thing. And their thing is not such a good thing. Now this is right at the heart of our life. Then we've got the nirvana, the 5 hindrances. This is at the heart of our practices. The way we go through life. These 5 hindrances stop us from having a really good time during this remarkable experience we call human life. They're called sensory desire, that's attachment again. Aversion, we've seen that before. Sloth and torpor, laziness. I'm too lazy to enjoy life. So we pretend we're busy. Because if we're busy, we're being productive. And then we complain about how busy we are, and that's why we're not enjoying life. Restlessness and remorse, boredom, and oh, woe is me, I feel so bad about stuff. I was a bad boy when I was young. Oh my God, I was terrible. Okay, I regret that. But I'm not going to waste my life feeling guilty about stuff I cannot change. And when I get bored, I think about all the stuff that I did when I was bad. And then doubt, skeptical doubt. Nothing's going to help me get better. Or I'm not good enough to get better. I'm not worthy of a fun, happy life. These are things that are stopping us from having a good, happy life. And then let's go on top of that. We love our lists in Buddhism. We have 10 hindrances. 10 more hindrances. Each hindrance has a particular application, context. The 10 hindrances stop us from clearly seeing, from attaining awakening. The first 3, they're in a box. The first 3, just to get started on the journey toward awakening, the journey toward nirvana. We have to give up the belief in a permanent self. We are not permanent. Our personalities are not permanent. Our thoughts are not permanent. That candle is a self, and it's certainly not permanent. It's as disposable as I am. It's just going to be disposed of sooner than I am, I hope. But we never know. We could all leave here today, walk out that back door, and get run over by a garbage can truck. We don't know. Then there's doubt, extreme skepticism in our abilities and the teachings, and clinging to precepts, rites, rituals, and ceremonies. Clinging to sectarian ideas that my way is the best way. The way of my teachers is the best way. The way of the sect I follow is the best way. My religion is the best way. And if I do these things in a particular way, the way my sect, religion, tradition says I'm supposed to do it, then all my problems will be solved. Try that someday. That's magical thinking. So if we give up magical thinking, the belief in the illusion of a permanent self, and doubt in ourselves and the teachings and the practice, hopefully, we can start our journey toward awakening. And it's guaranteed. Then if we give up attachments to sense desires and ill will and anger, better known as attachment and aversion, or at least lessen them, life becomes a lot easier. And then if we're really good and want to become an arhat, we can get rid of the other 5. But those aren't completely necessary to get rid of. It's only the first 3 that are necessary. And they tend to be the hardest. Once we get rid of those, the rest is easy.
The first 3, belief in a permanent self, doubt, clinging to precepts, rites, rituals, and ceremonies.
Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 ones that we really have to renounce. Those are so important, because if we don't renounce those, we lock ourselves into boxes. We've locked ourselves into a box of a view of ourselves. We lock ourselves into a box where we actually become afraid to try, and we lock ourselves into a box of magical thinking that a certain prescription coming from somebody outside of us is going to save us. We can only do that ourselves.
Would you mind explaining recognizing the shadow, with how that relates to the 10 hindrances? Because you have it.
Yeah, well, if those 10 hindrances are in front of us, they stop us from seeing. If we're not seeing, we can't recognize our shadow self. And our shadow self are the 7 obsessions at the end here. On the next page. This brings us to karma. Karma is what is driving us into these hindrances, but it can also drive us away from those hindrances. Karma is a mental process involving body, speech, and mind. There's black and white and gray karma. Traditionally, we call that black karma bad, white karma good. Sounds like a KKK meeting, right? And we have gray karma, which is purely functional. Everybody is going to create white karma, which is skillful karma, and black karma, which is unskillful karma. It's functional. Only an arahant, a fully enlightened being, which is not having thought going on, which is only aware of their existence and things that exist around them, that one will have functional karma. That one will not experience rebirth. And that's the important thing about our karma. Our karma creates us who we are at this particular moment. How we deal with that karma at this particular moment will determine who we will be, what will happen mentally in the next moment. Going back to the front page with the boxes, the 3,000 realms. I can do nothing about the karma that is affecting me right now. At the moment that you are doing something, thinking something, saying something, you have no control. You have control in the next moment, not this moment. Karma is the cause and creates the condition of your mental state in this moment. You do have power to create the causes and conditions of the next moment. And that's why we practice. The rest of this, from the Anguttara Nikaya, where the Buddha speaks about karma, is basically saying that each one of us is the sum total of every decision we have ever made. That's why we are here. That's why our bodies are the way they are, not necessarily the genetic properties of them, because that came at birth. It's from another life, as they say. But the way we have treated our bodies determines our health, determines the condition of our bodies at this moment. The way we have thought determines a pattern of thinking that we perpetuate by continuing that. What we say is a reflection of our thinking. Now, the 7 obsessions down here, depending upon our karma, will determine whether these obsessions are going to be latent tendencies, which we always have with us. That's why it's called a shadow self. They are always with us. They are influencing the way our individualized self will manifest, to us at least. So when we're creating a self, one or more of these tendencies will become predominant. If they become very predominant and our karma has been very unskillful, they will become obsessions, where we become fixated on things based upon these tendencies. And there are 7. Sensual passion, resistance, views, uncertainty, conceit, becoming or not becoming, and ignorance. There are actually people that are fixated on the idea of not seeing clearly. We call them the conservative party. Some people like conservatives. Okay. They're obsessed with becoming or obsessed with conceit. I am better than they are. Those teat-sucking poor people who always want money from the government. I'm better than they are. But I'm not as good as the rich, because they're the ones in power. But I am the same as the middle class. All 3 are lies that we tell ourselves. That's why they're obsessions. But we get fixed on ideas like this. And that is the shadow which is always lurking inside of us. And you can become a perfectly enlightened human being, a high-level bodhisattva or an arhat. And those tendencies will still be there lurking underneath it all. It's just that you will know how to deal with it. And the rest of us poor slobs are going to be going up and down the emotional roller coaster and in and out of the 3,000 realms constantly.
So are the latent tendencies the shadow self?
They are the shadow self. Yeah. Yeah, that's the self that lurks in the shadow, waiting to come out. Jungians, and we don't look at them because we don't see them as being shadows. As I understand the Jungian sense, it's a shadow self because we don't want to look at it. Now these tend to, and in Jung's terms, the shadow self can be either good or bad for you.
Really? It could be good?
Huh? Oh yeah, it can be good. You can have a good shadow self, but you don't want to explore it. That's why it's the shadow. It's the part you're not looking at. And in Buddhism, the part that we're not looking at, the average person is not looking at, is everything. So everything's the shadow self to an ordinary person in the Buddhist sense, because they're not being introspective and seeing things. And even if they are being introspective, they don't have the wisdom to see what it is they're supposed to be looking at to uncover the true self, which is that luminous mind. So, yeah. The true self that has no ego, no personality, but is simply purely aware. Any questions? Oh, please.
On the first page,
Mm-hmm.
there's two, it's like a cube, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
but there's two which are the same. So is there a designation for each of these?
Yeah, there's take that first one for instance, where you have Buddhahood on top, and then you have a row of 10, the 10 realms again. That's simply saying that within the realm of Buddhahood also exists realms of Buddhahood, Bodhisattva, realizations, learning. All the 10 of those realms exist in that realm as well.
Right.
And that's what that's saying. That's why those cubes are like that, showing us 100 cubes.
Oh, okay.
And each one contains every other one.
Oh, okay, so they're just showing how they it's just kind of a diagram, but then these are on the sides. So
right, that gives depth to the cubes.
Depth. Oh, okay.
So that gives us 900 other possibilities.
Oh, okay.
Because each world, each one of these experiences contains all 10 of those as well.
And those 10 are, what are they described as? Environment?
They're characteristics of any given experience.
Okay. So is one self, one others, and one characteristic?
Oh no,
Okay.
you would need 3 more cubes for that.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
And if we're talking about 2 others, you would need 6 more cubes for that.
Wow, yeah, okay.
So how do you get out of this mess in the next 10 minutes?
Yeah, what do you do?
I'll tell you for 1999.
Are there things we can do to enhance our capacity of compassion? I mean, I've heard something called compassion meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we can discuss more in class, or try
Yeah.
sometime?
Yeah, you may be talking about metta meditation.
Okay.
Loving kindness meditation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was prescribed by the Buddha during his lifetime, and that is the idea that may I be happy first of all. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, or as we say today, may I be free from bummers and the causes of bummers. And then it goes on to expand to people you love. Then that goes on to expand to strangers, expanding that to people you hate. And then you expand it to everybody. This is the way it was originally given. In the modern era, we've expanded that from people to animals to the environment, to the nation, to the universe. And it's done on a very mundane level, conventional level. So we're talking about physical beings outside of us. And excuse me, if we brought emptiness into it, then it's totally a mental exercise where we're freeing how we think of people from our preconceptions and all that, which is probably more important, actually. Because if I have no preconception of a person being this way or that way, then there's no reason for me to treat them with anything else but kindness. And then there's also another meditation called exchanging self with others. It's called Tong Len in Tibetan, and oddly enough, Len Tong in Chinese. And that's the practice of accepting what we perceive as their bad qualities into us, purifying them and giving them back to them. So we're giving them back. It's a mental exercise in compassion and visualizing it. And oddly enough, there's some evidence that Tong Len may be curative. If somebody's sick and you do that meditation for them regularly, there tends to be something like a healing process, which I find totally fascinating. And it's one of those weird things about meditation. Anybody else?
How do we get on it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I never answered that question. Do meditation. One way to get out of it, probably the most basic way to get out of it, is simple vipassana. It's the shamatha vipassana meditation, is seeing things as impermanent. When we relax the mind and it's not busy and we see the impermanence of things, the inherent existential stress these things cause us, that we're craving and clinging to and averse to, that the very act of aversion and attachment is what's causing the problem, and we see its temporary nature, and we stop identifying with it, and we see clearly in the meditation that it's temporary, stressful, and not us. We don't have to identify with it, and it's not ours. It just exists. Then things become clear. It gives us clear insight into the nature of the thing that is bothering us. For instance, if I go home and my wife starts yelling at me about something that I did or didn't do, I can just look at her and go, okay, she's angry. She's probably not feeling very good about herself at this moment. And I'm in the way. I'm an easy, safe target. So I can be an easy, safe target. I can be the fluffy pillow that people bang up in therapy. That's all right, because I don't have to take it personally. As a matter of fact, I didn't take it personally when I realized that she's probably not feeling very good. That's why she's yelling at me. Or I really did screw up very badly and I better take care of it. It's like there's a saying in China. Well, is it from China or Thailand? Oh, it's from Thailand. If somebody calls you a dog, look around to see if you have a tail. If you have a tail, no harm done. You might think about doing something about that, though. If you look around and you see that you don't have a tail, there's no harm done, because he was mistaken. So you just don't take it personally. You just check out the fact. Is that the way it is? Is it not the way it is? If it's not the way it is, don't worry about it. Because Lord knows in about half an hour they'll forget about it anyway. People have very short memories, especially in computer age. What was your question?
How do we get out of it?
Well, now you know. Meditation, vipassana, simple vipassana.
But
Very, very effective.
When you say vipassana, is that a meditation technique?
No, shamatha is actually the technique. Vipassana is the way of seeing.
But shamatha is the one you described earlier where you just focus on something?
Yeah, you just relax. Relax the mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's what vipassana is about. And there's several ways of doing it. You can either use external objects or internal objects. You can even use a mantra or a chant. One of the reasons people do Namo Amituopo is to attain something called Amitabha Samadhi, where the mind is totally relaxed and concentrated. When it's concentrated, it's relaxed. And in that relaxation, when we look at something, we see it clearly for what it is. And what we're seeing is its impermanence, the stress it causes, or which is inherent in it, its nature of not being ours or mine. But we can also see its emptiness, its inherent emptiness, that whatever situation that we're looking at, and everything is an event in Buddhism. A person is an event, because we're talking about the experience of that person. It is inherently empty of self-existence. It is caused, and it is conditional. It only exists as long as the conditions support it. Now that's a neat way of looking at it, because when you see this, what you're seeing is that the situation, the event, has an absolute right to be there. Matter of fact, it cannot not be there, because there are causes which created conditions, and those conditions support this event. Whether it's something that's horrible, or whether it's something that's very, very joyful. Both of them have a right to exist, because the conditions support that existence. If you don't want it to be that way, you have to change the causes, because the causes will lead to different conditions which will no longer support that event. The event that we call Mui, or the self, only exists as long as conditions support it. When conditions no longer support it, we look at the person and go, oh, doesn't he look natural while he's laying there in his coffin? Because my life is only supported by the conditions. When causes change, the conditions will change, and I will no longer be here. But I'm okay with that, because I understand impermanence. It's weird. Death does not bother me. I have done enough death meditations where actual death does not bother me. It's the pain that precedes the death which really annoys me. Keeps me up awake all night. But that's okay. All right. Are we all ready to give up on our species now? Because it is time to end, unless there are more questions. Okay, then that's it. Now, as soon as I turn off the recorder, there'll be more questions, I'm sure.